Have you ever noticed in the Bible many times we find Jesus disappearing? Oftentimes he would slip away from the crowd, but even his own family couldn't find him. Today I wanted to share 4 points why Jesus would do this and how that relates to us today and what that means for us as we wait for his return. And also why many times we ourselves need to disappear for brief moments and just be with God. So in number 1, we see Jesus in a temple, and we see this in Luke chapter 2. When Jesus was 12, his parents would travel home to Jerusalem after the Passover feast. But in that moment, Jesus stayed behind. So think about this for a moment. Jesus went missing for 3 days. And in those times, Mary and Joseph were going to be traveling with a large group. A lot of family members, people from their hometown, they would all travel together. So it's understandable to think, how did Jesus go missing and why didn't they notice right away? It's because when they were traveling, they would often assume he was probably with another family member, a neighbor, or someone around them that was close that he would often talk to. So they would just safely assume he's with somebody. But it took them however long to realize he was missing. And then it took 3 days to find him. So I can only imagine the amount of stress and prayers they had to God, asking for forgiveness because they thought they lost Jesus, that they couldn't find him. So they're probably praying quite a bit to help find Jesus. So after 3 days of searching for him, they finally found him in the temple. And he was sitting among teachers, and they were asking him questions and listening to him. And here we see, to his earthly parents, he was lost. But in reality, he was right where he's supposed to be, in his Father's house. Jesus even said, "Didn't you know I was meant to be in my Father's house?" So what does this show us? What this shows us is disappearing from a time or even feeling lost. You're not actually being lost. What it can mean is it can actually mean you are exactly where God wants you to be. And what you're doing is you're learning, you're growing, and you're preparing for what God has planned ahead of you. So let's look at number 2. Number 2 is withdrawing to pray. See, throughout Jesus' ministry, we often found him many times. He withdrew himself to pray to the Father. And Luke 5:16 tells us, but Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed. So think about this. Even the Son of God, who healed the sick, cast out demons, spoke to thousands of people, had to step away from time to time and be alone with the Father. So if Jesus needed to do that much, how much more do we need to do that? Sometimes we need to step away from the distractions of the world, the stresses, just the day-to-day life, the grind that we all go through from day to day, week to week, month to month, to year. We need to step away from those times. And it's so important to just spend quiet time with the Father. So let's jump into number 3. Number 3 is escaping the threat. There were moments throughout the Bible that tells us that the crowd wanted to kill Jesus. And in John 8:59 tells us, at this, they picked up stones to stone him, but Jesus hid himself, slipping away from the temple grounds. And we also see in Luke 4:30, when his own people wanted to push him off a cliff for the things he said, what did he do? He just simply walked right through the crowd and walked away. Now, why was he so confident that they wouldn't do anything and they wouldn't try to actually throw him off that cliff? It was because it wasn't the Father's timing. He would often disappear to protect his Father's timing. And he knew no one could touch him until that appointed hour on the cross. And what this teaches us from time to time, When we often need to step away from things, it's not weakness, but it's a time to get wisdom. It's knowing when to step back and let God's timing take place. And number 4, when Jesus rose from the grave, in this moment we see something even more incredible. On the road to Emmaus, in Luke 24, we see 2 disciples walking with Jesus, but they did not know he was Jesus. When they invited him into their home and they broke bread with Jesus, their eyes were open, and then Jesus quickly disappeared. This wasn't about hiding anymore. This was about revealing his divine, glorified nature, that his body was no longer bound to earthly limits. So these disappearances should remind us that Jesus is not gone forever, that he's very well alive and he will return one day. So looking back on all this, why did Jesus disappear so much? We see him do it because out of prayer, to protect his Father's timing and to glorify his divine nature. So as we wait for his return, let's do the things that he showed us to do. To learn to step away and just spend time with the Father, to learn to grow and just learn and get wisdom to honor the Father's timing in our lives. So if this message has blessed you in any way, encouraged you, please like, share, and subscribe, and share with us in the comments how Jesus changed your life. Let us hear your testimony so you can encourage someone else that's going through the same thing that you're going through. Have a blessed week ahead. God bless.